Yo, what's going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. I've made a lot of videos like the one I made today in terms of the topic, which is, how to get through day one of, quitting weed, or what to do when you say you want to quit, but you always smoke at the end of the day. I've made videos on that topic before, but I wanted to make another one, reading a post I found on Reddit, and just kind of let my thoughts flow instead of it being so pre-planned and structured. And the intent is that by sharing some of my experience, mostly about my own journey and some of what I've seen with other people, um, you'll be able to connect some dots for yourself if you can relate to this topic. All right. So here's the post. It goes, struggling to quit. Every time I say today's the day I go sober, I smoke. Any advice? And the post says, so I've been smoking pretty consistently for about 2 years now, and I've been trying to quit for once. It feels like every single day I wake up and think, today I go sober, but it never happens. Every day I cave and I smoke. Even if I plan to cut down, I never do. How do you do it? Any advice or personal experiences with giving it up? Um, so a lot of things come to mind, right? And there are many ways people, um, successfully go through day one. One simple piece of advice is to go somewhere where you can't access it, right? Stay at a hotel if you can afford it. Stay at a friend's place if you have some friends where they don't smoke. Go on a vacation if you can. That is the easiest way because quite literally you don't have access to it. But now, what comes up for me with this question is the whole cycle of saying, okay, I'm done, I'm gonna quit, or I'm done and today's the day, and then you smoke, right? And doing that over and over again. And in my journey, I gained a lot of shame going through that cycle. And I think that's what's most common for people is they gain a lot of shame and embarrassment because it's like what happens is you essentially your word has no weight. And even when you say, you know what, today's the day, it's like you can feel like you're not taking that seriously, because it's like the boy who cries wolf. And it sucks, man, because imagine being so disconnected from your own word and your own ability to follow through that even if you say, like, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to take a break, it's like you could feel how false that is. And the reason why that is because you're not following through, right? But what also comes to mind for this is to realize that it's not a mystery. And I've mentioned this in videos before. Um, it's no mystery why a person will smoke even when they say they don't want to or they don't plan to. At the end of the day, you have to take responsibility. And on top of that, you have to remove a sense of judgment over it, right? So what that would look like is, um, what doesn't work is being like, man, why do why do I keep smoking even though I say I'm gonna follow through? Why do I keep smoking even though I say I'm gonna quit and go sober? The answer is simple. The reason why is because 7 o'clock rolls around, and when the thought comes up to that says, "Hey, we should go smoke, or should we smoke, or should we not?" Instead of saying no, instead of saying no, you say, "Yeah, let's go buy," right? And so it's important to take ownership that when it's time to say no, you say yes, right? When it's time to say no to weed, you say yes to weed. And then second of all, to not make that wrong and not to judge that. And what I mean by that is it's just a choice you're making, right? It's like, am I gonna press the snooze button or am I gonna wake up? It's like the reason why you press snooze is because you press snooze. And I get it, right? Because it's like similar to pressing snooze, you're a little bit unconscious, right? You're not deciding from a place of conscious thinking. You're more or less chasing pleasure and running away from pain, right? And which is how our brains are wired. That's how literally our brains are wired. And so In a similar way, right? If you're someone who's used to smoking every day and you hadn't smoked and it's 7 p.m. and you're feeling the boredom, you're feeling the stress, and then the thought comes, should we smoke? And quite literally, the thought itself will create a sense of stress and anxiety. And ironically, the way that most people who smoke weed deal with stress and anxiety, at least, you know, primarily, is they smoke weed. And so it's like, oh my God, now the lack of weed is causing the stress that makes me want to smoke weed, right? And so, point being, the first thing is to take responsibility that, the reason why you're smoking is because you're choosing to smoke, um, more or less, right? It's important to take ownership of those decisions, and then secondly, to not judge them. And the reason for that, to not judge them, is the point is to reduce the negative emotion around the decision, and to clear ourselves up mentally and emotionally to hopefully move forward, right? Because oftentimes we get so bogged down in the shame and the guilt and the disappointment and the judgment. And ironically, the way that many stoners deal with those types of emotions is to smoke. And so it's like this perpetual cycle of, I'm gonna quit today, and then you smoke. It's like, why did I smoke? Oh no, let me smoke some more so I don't feel this way. Why did I do that? You know what? Today's the day. Smoke. So it's like, oh my goodness. Um, so that's one thing that comes to mind. The second thing that comes to mind is realizing that marijuana plays a quite a major role in how we handle ourselves in our lives, especially for someone who's, a stoner or chronic smoker, smokes multiple times a day, even once a day, right? Um, there are ways you're utilizing marijuana as a tool to deal with things and a tool to get things, right? So some of the things I'll list down is you're using it to deal with boredom, you're using it to just feel stimulation, you're using it to raise your emotional state, deal with anxiety, deal with stress, to relax. In a lot of ways, we do it. You know how when you're just like you're bored, or there's like an awkward pause, or you're just like kind of feeling antsy, you reach for your phone without even thinking. And so in a lot of ways, we'll just be like, let's go smoke some weed, right? Because it's just this thing that will take us from blah to rah, right? That was corny. But the point is that oftentimes if you're a chronic smoker, you depend on marijuana to deal with certain aspects of life. And so that's another reason why it's difficult to let go of it, even though you say in the morning, I'm done, I'm quitting. Because it's then you're left with like a lack of ways to deal with life, right? Okay, so for example, let's say for a year now, the way that you relax after work and deal with the overwhelm of your life is to smoke a joint, right? In fact, I recently talked to someone about this. Um, if that's how you're used to doing it, 7 p.m. every night, what's going to happen is in the morning you'll say, you know what, I'm done, I'm not going to smoke today. 7 p.m. is going to roll around, and you may not even have cravings to smoke, but your body is going to be looking for relaxation, entertainment, stimulation. And when we don't have other ways to do that, when we're used to smoking weed, you can bet that what's going to come over you is, man, should I smoke? Should I go get some weed? Like without even trying, those are the thoughts going to come to mind. And then what's quickly going to come after that are just these fantasies of how great it's going to feel, especially in comparison to how you're feeling in that moment, which is like bored, stressed out. Now you're anxious about the fact that you want to smoke but you said you wouldn't, and it just compounds itself. And so point being, um, in addition to taking responsibility and removing judgment from your decisions, is creating awareness around what you're using weed for, in what ways, and alternative ways to deal with it. Okay, so for example, using that same example with the relaxing after work, right? So when 7 p.m. comes around, okay, and you get that craving for weed, ask yourself, what am I really looking for here? And what you're probably going to find out is something along the lines of, I want to relax, I want to decompress, I want to let go, I want to have fun, I want to feel happier. And so then the question that becomes, what are alternative ways I can get all those things and not utilize weed? And just allow your brain to be creative and come up with different solutions. And something to note is that, one, you have to be down for this process, meaning you have to be willing, right, when the cravings come up to go through this process of asking yourself, what am I really looking for? And then being open and being down to finding and trying out different solutions. And if you allow for this process to take place, you'll find solutions and you'll be able to create this whole different lifestyle such that you can become independent from weed, because that really is what this is about, is becoming independent from marijuana, and learning how to have a life that doesn't include it. And so we're reaching the close to the 12-minute mark here. So for example, right, and you know, for me, what I ways that I deal with, for example, stress, play video games. At best, I might do some preventional things like going on walks, doing morning meditation type stuff, drinking water. But in terms of like quick fix coping, video games for sure, playing chess, watching YouTube, maybe eating a treat type of food, like junk food, for lack of a better way of saying it. Um, Other healthy ways is like taking hot baths. I love doing that. Taking hot showers, um, and so yeah, and those are things I had to not had to, but those are things I developed over time, um, and so yeah. Okay, so to break that down, number one is to take responsibility. Right, there's no mystery why you're smoking at the end of the day. It's because at some point in the day you're choosing to pick up the joint and smoke it, right? Like bare bones. That's what's happening. Number two, number two is to do your best to let go of judgment over, the fact that you're choosing to smoke when you said you wouldn't. It's just a decision you're making, and maybe take it even a step further. It's like, acknowledging that you're not willing to um, uh, make a different decision, right? It's like, you know what, I could to kind of put it in a different perspective, I could wake up on the first alarm, but I want to snooze. And it's like, could I could go a whole day without smoking weed, but I'm just not down for it. Like, I'd rather just fucking smoke the weed instead of like seeing that through. And it's just okay to acknowledge that. In fact, maybe it's important to acknowledge that, just to bring some sense of accountability to the decision making. And then, like I said, if that is what the decision if you're going to decide to just smoke instead of follow through, like, just own up to it. It's like, you know what? Like, that's just where I'm at. And I'm not going to play victim. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know what I need to do, So it's like, it's more powerful to just own up to it than to like play dumb, I'm not saying that you're trying to play dumb on purpose, but it's like, at some point you for sure have to take accountability. And then after that, right, on top of that, rather, is realizing that, part of what makes this so difficult is that, maybe you don't have other ways to just deal with life, like deal with stress, anxiety, have fun, be at peace, have a sense of self-connection, feel grounded, right? And put marijuana dependency and like marijuana addiction aside. Like, these are things that people are trying to figure out, right? It's like, oh my God, how do I get grounded? How do I, deal with stress? And I'm definitely not a master at those things, but point is that those are normal things to um, like be confused about, right? It's not just, oh my God, I don't know how to do it. I've been smoking weed this whole time. It's like, no, like, people in general, whether they are weed smokers or not, it's like, man, how do I find a way to stay grounded? And how do I find a way to be happy? How do I find a way to, cope in a healthy way? Um, so yeah, hopefully this created some insight for you. Again, uh, the name of this game is to obviously take responsibility, but to become independent from needing marijuana to have the things you want in life, especially internally, right? Relaxation, relief, a sense of peace, a sense of joy, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of satisfaction. Because what's happening is, in a lot of ways, we're looking to marijuana to fulfill those needs. And so, of course, if you were to remove marijuana from your life, it's like, oh my God, I feel so empty. Oh my God, I don't know. Right? It's like, um, all of a sudden there are these gaping holes like in ourselves, in our lives, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and it's like you freak out. It's like of course you're gonna go for the weed. Like that's a lot of suffering, right? You remove the weed, and all of a sudden you didn't realize all these different things that are going on inside of you. But anyways, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully someone was able to make a shift and turn a corner through the information in this video. Um, Consider I'll leave a link in the comments down below, both to my ebook, which is really short. It's only 40 pages long. You buy it on Amazon. It's mostly centered on helping people have like a mindful relationship with marijuana, but I think you'll find a lot of really helpful tips in general, not just to get through day one, but just to become independent from marijuana overall. And then second of all, if you want to work more closely one-on-one, whether it's with your marijuana, struggles, or if it's just with life in general, mixed with marijuana struggles, reach out to me. I work with people one-on-one, and yeah, we have a great time, and we make it an emphasis to move forward, right, in our lives and make changes. So, anyways, that is it. Hopefully, you found this video well. Happy Tuesday. Happy February. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.